Good evening or good morning or hello to everyone. My name is Anthony Kaufman. I'm a senior programmer at the Chicago International Film Festival. We're very excited to have our discussion here with The Reason I Jump. The filmmaker is with us, Jerry Rothwell, and some of the subjects from the film are here as well. Bertra and Ben McGann and Donna and Emma Budway. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll talk, and hopefully you'll learn something extra that can expand upon your experience of the film. So let's just start with some of the basics, Jerry. I know that the film's topic came to you through your producers, one of whom has a son, I guess, or a child who's autistic. But I was curious as to whether you had any other personal connections to this material.
I mean, in my family, autism within my extended family, and I guess sort of my kind of filmmaking and prior to that sort of community work life has taken me into a lot of work with people with learning disabilities. So when the idea for making a film around The Reason I Jump came along, I didn't feel like it was unfamiliar territory, but also when I read the book, I think it made me really understand the experience of non people anew. It kind of really sort of blew my mind, I guess. And my first step was then to go and meet with Naoki, whose first rule, having blessed the film, was to say that he shouldn't be in it. So hence the film uses Naoki's words and explores the experience of other people around the world. Right, so you're mute.
Did he say why he didn't want to be in it?
I think for him, I think there's a combination of things. I think for him as a writer, he feels he's best. His words are the place where he expresses himself best. He's quite a private person. He didn't want, I think the kind of film I was proposing would have been one that, shot with his family and kind of involved a kind of collaboration that went into his life quite a bit. And I don't think he really was up for that. I think he'd rather keep writing books.
So I have a question that kind of, there's the question for you, Jerry, and there's kind of a reverse question for Ben and Emma. And the question is like, how did you choose them to be in the film? And then the reverse question would be really for Ben and Emma, like, how did they choose you? I mean, how did they accept you? Because, you mentioned Naoki did not want to be on camera. Why did they agree to let you put them on camera?
So for me, it was, I already was interested in shooting with Amrit in India because it felt like that was a good, working with a visual artist was a good way to get into a kind of sensory visual world. But there was a sort of point in the film where I felt needed to go to people who were able to kind of advocate and who were used to advocating around their experience. And I came across Ben and Emma in a YouTube video that was made by their group, The Tribe, which is a group of non-speaking autistics who publish a magazine and do advocacy work in DC. So then I came to Arlington, and I remember, I think we met in a park to begin with, Ben, didn't we?
And we'll give Ben has a lot to say. We'll give him a second, Gloria.
Yeah.
And if Donna, you wanted to come in and also talk from your experience as a mother of letting Jerry in.
Right. Let me tell you what Emma said. She said, we met Jerry and we really trusted him. And I do think that was the case for both Ben and Emma. We were all very familiar with the book, and the book was an incredible gift for our family, like it was many families who have someone in their family or love someone who is autistic. And so the book was obviously a great gateway to the relationship. And then when Jerry came that day and spent a day with Ben and Emma and saw what their day looked like and what their relationship was like and explored a little bit the advocacy opportunity for Ben and Emma, I think that really sold them on this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Benjamin said that he saw it as an opportunity to advocate for non-speaking autistics.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Jerry, the film, so I watch a lot of documentaries, right? And there are advocacy films, right? And I'm sure there is a film out there about autism and autism rights and civil rights, for people with disabilities. But your film is different than I think a straight up advocacy film. So I'm actually wondering how you see the film in those sort of two different ways and how those ways come together.
I mean, I think for me, it was a great blessing, actually, Naoki saying that he didn't want to be in the film, because it meant you had to think about this film much more laterally and think, what's the sort of cinematic equivalent of his book? And his book, describes, in a way, it's a kind of gift for a filmmaker, because it describes a really sensory world that's different from the world that a lot of us neurotypicals perceive. And cinema is a great kind of means to take people into an experience like that. And I'm not saying that the film replicates how people see the world, but I think what it can do is take you into a sort of space where you're seeing things differently. So for me, like beginning by trying to immerse an audience in lots of close-ups in a world that you can't see the detail really, and then kind of move from there sort of forward out into the world was a way of translating the book, I guess.
I have a follow-up question there, but for Emma and Ben, was there anything in the film that, I mean, I imagine they like the film. I imagine Donna, Bertra, you like the film, but I'm wondering if there's anything in the film that you didn't like, or is there anything in the film that Ben and Emma didn't like, or have questions about? While they're answering, Jerry, how do you see the film as a? Sorry, what was that?
I was just going to say, Bertra, maybe it's good if you mute whilst Ben's hitting board, because it's so close to the mic. So okay. Can you mute whilst Ben's spelling? That just might make it easier for them to edit, I think.
So basically following up on that last question about the film as advocacy, do you feel like the sort of creative aspects of the film maybe, so reach advocacy in a different way, or reach the viewer in a different way, maybe a deeper way? I don't know.
For me, I don't think, I kind of would like films that I make to have impact, but I don't think you can make a film to serve impact. If you start at I want the film to have this effect and then work backwards, I think you end up with a film that maybe is too determined by, and an audience kind of sniffs that as they're watching a film, and an audience wants to be taken to a place, I think, maybe that is unexpected and where it has to think things through, and where it's treated respectfully and presented with contradictions it has to work out. And that's my guess. As a film goer, that's what I like. So for me, yes, it's important. I think that I hope that the film is a tool to effect change, but it also needs to work as a film, as a piece of kind of cinema, as a cinematic experience for 82 minutes or whatever that you're in. And for me, I guess in the filmmaking, that's the most important thing. Yeah,
and so Emma, are Emma and Ben ready? So you guys you got to unmute so we can hear you now. I have to say the letterboards for me were a revelation, because I was not aware of that. It was quite, it's compelling and suspenseful for me, because I want to know what, I'm very excited to hear what they're saying, but of course I do need to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben said, I think Jerry did a great job capturing our normal world.
Are we ready? Yeah.
Yep, sorry, Emma's ready. Said really appreciated, Emma said, she really appreciated the honesty of the film. And earlier when you were talking about what the film product would be, Emma had been writing and said, I could not have imagined how beautiful the film was. There is a scene with Joss that is very difficult, and it completely resonated with me. Autism is very hard.
Yeah, right.
So it's so interesting, that scene as well, because for me there's a sort of ethical question, you know, about I think it's really problematic when people share, you know, videos of people's meltdowns on Facebook or something, and it's like, but at the same time that's an experience that it felt really important to kind of gesture to. So it was like this, trying to edit that in a way that was both respectful for Joss, used Naoki's words to put you more in Joss's head and more from his point of view, and then kind of trimming it down, you know, until it was only what was absolutely necessary.
Did Emma or Ben or anyone you spoke with ever say to you to stop? This was too vulnerable, or this was too uncomfortable, or, you know?
I can't remember whether we did with you, Ben and Emma. I think there were times where I'd just been filming too long, or I'd been hanging around too long, and you'd had enough, I think. And certainly, you know, Joss would let you know when he didn't want to film, and there were times when we absolutely stopped filming. I think that's true for everyone, actually. For everyone, I mean, I think people were very, you know, we tried to film in a very unobtrusive, sort of gentle way. But I think inevitably bringing a kind of crew of strangers into someone's house is an intrusion and an addition to the kind of sensory universe that you're already in, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wonder, you know, whether you could be triggering in some ways, you know, or your crew, you know, in some negative ways ever.
I mean, what I noticed was that on the whole, people didn't were not so bothered by a presence for a while, and then it was more like, you know, second, third day, it's like, okay, that's true of all filming. It's like you shoot with someone for a day, and then the next day, and they go, what, you come back, haven't you finished? You know, and I think there is that process, but yeah, perhaps more intense. I don't know for Ben and Emma, how was the actual being filmed part of it?
Is Emma saying? Does she say something?
Before we go on to that question, I think we all feel that Joss kind of took the team. Like for those of us who kind of live in the kind of chaotic, loud part of autism, there were plenty of moments that Jerry could have, that did film, but that did not make it into film. And so we're grateful for that, but it is what it is. It's part of what we struggle with. But Emma said that about that scene with Joss, she said one of the things she said, when she found it, she said it was very powerful. She liked the part she described after the storm. And I think she's speaking of that very tender moment where Joss is with his mother in the lights. And it's just beautiful. And because we experienced the storm in our house, the fact that we experienced the calm after the storm, it's kind of a beautiful, very special time when that happens, and it's much deserved when it comes.
Bertra, do we have something else? Okay, yeah, great. Whenever you're ready, just unmute.
Yes, Ben said it was tedious, but it was necessary to tell our story.
Okay, tedious, he said.
He did.
Okay. Don't put that in the review there. Okay. I wonder. Yeah. Okay. I wonder what was tedious about it. If he wants to
Yeah, we're talking about the film, the process of making the
Being
film.
filmed.
Oh, the
Yeah.
making the film could be tedious. Oh, of course. Yes. That's
Well,
right.
we
I
answered
thought,
the wrong question. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, that was the right question.
Yeah, you know, the crew and the film and, you know, the lights and all the equipment and moving
course.
around. That was a bit tedious.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question, and unless Donna, was there something else?
Anna just said it was fun to have the week together. She's the social animal in the group.
Okay.
Oh.
So I wanted to ask about the sound and the sound design, Jerry, and the thinking that went into that kind of immersive sound design, and yeah, how do you think that captures their experience or tries to mimic their subjectivity in some way?
I mean, so I guess in all of the, you know, there's this incredible literature by non-speaking autistic people now, you know, writers like Tito Mukapege or Ido Keda or Naoki himself. And for all of them, I think sound is something that they, you know, is incredibly important to them and is very vividly described by all of them. So fairly early on, we felt we wanted to do the film in 360 degree sound, you know, in using Dolby Atmos, which is where you can place a sound anywhere in the cinema. And I suppose that felt important because of the issue of the kind of distractions of sound, of kind of trying to switch from the sound of the thing you're looking at maybe to the sound of something that's to the side of the thing you're looking at, or to a sound that's intrusive or distracting. But we also sort of wanted to do that from the environments that we were shooting in. So Sarah Lima, who was a sound recordist, we recorded all the sound in 360. We had 3 mics running at any one time, 16 tracks of audio, plus these kind of noise prints she'd made of each room, which we then used in the sound design to kind of treat sounds within the space. And the sound designer, Nick Ryan, was himself synesthesia, which is the kind of merging of images and sounds in the mind, I suppose, is something very common to autistic people, to non-speaking autistic people, I think. And so I think he brought to it that kind of understanding of the way sounds relates to each other, you know, that sound and memory or sound and image kind of relate. So for example, in the sequence of Amrit in the rain, I think in that sequence, you don't actually hear any actual rain. Everything in there is a sound that is like rain, like paper being crumpled or someone tapping their fingers, or, you know, so he's built this kind of rain scene out of almost like the memory of rain. And that comes from something that Naoki wrote, where he describes hearing rain and the pictures he has to go through in his mind in order to understand that it's raining, to kind of remember every moment that he can remember of it raining before he can generalize to the idea of rain.
One of the things that stood out for me in the film was also this blurring or between past and present. You know, you mentioned memories. This was, you know, something I knew nothing about. I thought that was interesting, both just as pure subject matter, but also as you handled it in the filmmaker, you know, through the kind of montage sequences. So I'm curious about that aspect. Was that always something that was important for you to address? And then I am curious to hear from Bertrand and Donna. You know, were any of these details new to you? Had you done all of the reading, you know, that has to be done on autism? Was this all familiar to you? Was there anything you learned from the film? And I mean, for Ben and Emma too, but I'm just curious as parents as well.
So to answer the first question, yeah, it's something that Naoki writes about in the book. The book is sort of 58, it's structured as 58 questions that people ask about autism, or that Naoki perhaps thinks it needs to be explained about his own experience. And so there's a few of those questions that relate to time and to perception of time, which Naoki says he experiences, I think, describes experiencing quite differently from how he observes neurotypical people experiencing time. And particularly the idea that kind of his memory, I think at one point he describes his memories as being like a kind of pool of dots, unlike what he thinks maybe the linear memory of maybe the more neurotypical mind. Because Joss was one of the subjects of the film and is the son of two of the producers of the film, it felt that to exploring that issue of time through Joss's experience was a kind of something we could do relatively easily. We had access to sort of home movie of Joss that went right back to when he was 2 or 3 years old. And there are things that Joss says, that his parents say definite references to things very early in his life. So, for example, he'll talk about a particular number on the house that he left, on the door of a house that he left when he was 3 or something. And it does feel when you're with Joss that the past is kind of ever present. It's there all the time around him. So that felt something important to try and explore.
Yeah.
Benjamin said,
yeah.
I learned that autism looks the same all over the world.
Yeah.
And I would just expound on that a bit. There's a lot said about the spectrum. And I even say myself that if you've seen one autistic kid, you've seen one, because they're all different. But there are also threads, commonalities, things that allow you to spot an autistic person walking down the street, that allows you to empathize with an autistic mom wherever in the world she is. And I think that the documentary very effectively highlighted the aspirations and exasperations of parents who love these kids and who have been on this journey that has brought them from a place that they didn't know to a place that they don't know. It's all every day is a new day, and yet the moms now that are of the children, of the adults in the documentary, we check in with each other, and this is real life. This wasn't a static event. We are living this life, and it was just great to see the commonalities and to recognize the journey that we share, but that also is very individual.
Yeah. Donna?
I think the parents' perspective, just different places in the world, and it was sobering, right? Like, we think we're having a bad day, but we have, running water, and I can get the supplies I need. I can get to the therapists I need. We've talked to Emerit. Now, they have not left that beautiful little flat of theirs since COVID started. And, Emma and Ben can go outside for 2 or 3 walks every day. They have each other. We have easy access to the internet. Like, to think of dealing with what we have to deal with and not having all the supports we have is pretty sobering. And I think it's good to be reminded, really, even in challenging times, how fortunate we are.
French fries.
Yeah, French fries.
I wonder, Jerry, I've asked this question a lot to filmmakers in the last year, and it doesn't always feel that relevant. Sometimes it's more relevant than others, should I say. And the question is, like, you made a film pre-pandemic, and it's going out into the world in the pandemic. And I'm wondering if you think at all about, differences in reception versus what was going on in your head, because the world is, it's really different now.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, I think. I mean, obviously there's the practicalities of getting a film out into the world and people seeing it on a laptop instead of in a cinema, and but then yeah, there's something else about what we've all experienced that maybe has made us all really understand our vulnerability, our own, you know, that each person now has a kind of, well, two things, maybe a sense of the vulnerability and the sense in which we're connected with others, you know, even at one level connected through our transmission of a virus, or connected in all of the ways that we need to support each other through that. So yeah, so maybe there's a kind of more emotional response to the film. I don't know. I always think, like, when you watch a film on a flight, it's a very bad thing to try and judge a film on a flight, because you're kind of 35,000 feet in the air, separated from your loved ones, and, you know, the slightly, I love kind of romantic, you know, trash on flights, you know, and I'm moved to tears. But then when you come back to earth, you say, "Oh, that film, that was so great." People kind of look at you, and I think it maybe it's like that. Maybe the cinema kind of plays into our sort of sense of isolation but also connectedness at this time. Yeah.
And the film, you know, as Bertra was saying, the film does connect, you know, global perspectives. I mean, you know, it's this around the world look. Obviously, you could have made a film just about Jos, and that, and, you know, you had the access there. Why was it important for you to go around the world?
I mean, I suppose I felt two things. I felt the film that's often made about non-speaking autistic people is the film about the kind of Western parents' experience. Yeah, that's quite a common film, and that's a very dramatic story, as Bert just said. But it's not the story of the autistic person, you know. And yet this book was a very direct communication from a non-speaking autistic person. So I wanted to kind of get away from that, but I also wanted to go to people and not have them be like examples of things in the book. It's like now Naoki's talking about, you know, sound, and so we're going to have this bit, you know. So it's like, how can we be with people in their own sort of individuality, in their own space, and use Naoki's words as a kind of key to help us with that, rather than as the thing that led it. And I knew that I kind of wanted to. I've been shooting. I actually grew up in Kenya, and I have shot in different African countries, and I wanted to include an African experience in there. And I've been shooting in Sierra Leone, and sort of became aware really of the way in which autism was kind of linked with a perception of kind of, you know, a demonic possession, and how to tell that without it feeling like, oh yeah, that's what happens in Africa, you know, just to try and understand how that surfaces in the community, and say amongst those mothers in that room, when they speak about the way in which they're sort of shunned by the community. And I was thinking, well, in a way that's so like actually the experience in the West. It's very like the experience in some countries not so long ago, you know, in Europe, autistic people were killed 50 years ago, 70 years ago. So we're not really able to pass judgments, you know, sort of sanctimonious judgments on that. But it sort of felt to me that the breadth of that experience was important to capture.
I'm going to put a question to Ben and Emma. You know, the film was finished filming a year ago, and I would like to know what they're doing now since the film was made, and, you know, what plans they have in terms of their advocacy work. And also, if you could just tell the audience maybe how to find out more information about the tribe, and are there similar groups out there for other autistic people in the country. I think that would be good to know. And Jerry, while they're answering, you know, I was looking at your filmography, and it's sort of all over the place for me in a way. And I was wondering, like, whether you see, you know, through lines, right, and where you see this film fitting in, and you know, again, this question of advocacy, like what are your hopes for the film? I mean, that's like a number of questions there, but I feel like they're somehow connected, because I think your film, a lot of your films, they do sort of speak to social issues in ways that aren't obvious, but that people can still kind of grasp onto what's the meat underneath, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm drawn to filmmaking because of the kind of intervention it makes in the world, I think, and I feel that the strongest way to do that is to make films that aren't kind of straightforward kind of messages or sort of propagandist, but are treating an audience as kind of thinking individuals, but giving them a set of tools to think about something. But you know, yeah, I don't know why the films are about so different things. I mean, in a way, this is a bit like has some commonalities with subject matter to Heavy Load, which is a film I made about a disabled punk band about 15 years ago, but it's highly unlike a film about fake wine. I think what happens is you get to the end of a film and you sort of feel like, yeah, I've immersed myself in that subject matter, and then everyone's kind of offering you, you know, the number of films I've been offered to direct about wine since Grapes is kind of huge, but I know that I will never make another film about wine. You know? So maybe it's just that, you know. Maybe there's, I don't know whether there's a commonality to them, maybe.
Okay. Ben, do we have is Ben ready?
Yes, he says, I am building a community of support and look forward to attending college.
Oh, great. Okay. Very nice. Emma?
Emma said, first of all, she wanted to say, sorry, I'm very unregulated. She said, I am so excited to be moved into my new apartment and starting some college classes.
That's great. And Donna, are you aware of other groups like the one that they were in? Is there a place where people can find information about?
You know, there's a great link. It's I-ASC, and it's an international group that does advocacy with spellers around the world. It's a great resource. I would encourage people to check that out.
Anything else to add, Bertra? Oh, sorry, you're still, yeah.
Right. This has been an excellent opportunity to elevate the voices of individuals for whom we judge their behaviors. You know, we make judgments about these individuals based on what we see. And the film really made it clear that they are responding to what they hear, what they see, what they feel. But their response may be unintentional. The response is certainly many times unexpected, and their response to the sensory input has limited opportunities for them, and I think that because of the platform that the film provides, it raises the prospect of viewing these individuals through a different lens, recognizing what is motivating them and what is driving them, and that they're amazingly engaged, amazingly competent, and really valued members of our global community.
Yeah, great. I think that's a great place to end. Jerry, did you want to add anything else?
I couldn't add anything to what Bertra just said. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Well,
great.
Thanks very much for joining us, Jerry. Thanks for making a beautiful film. And Emma and Ben, thanks for being beautiful people. And Donna and Bertra, you as well. Thank you so much. We'll be looking out for the film when it's released, helping promote it. And this Q&A will live on for people to watch on YouTube as well after the festival. So thanks so much for taking part, and yeah, stay safe and be well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pumpkin. Yeah, pumpkin. It's that time of year. All right. Bye.
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 Bye.